Good morning, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and metalheads of the internet, to a brand new, very special, very exciting episode of the Metal Meltdown. Can you guess what we're doing today, boys and girls and theys and thems? I'll give you a hint. It starts with a W, and it's gonna make a lot of people really mad. No! Not another woke rant! Please, Mr. Meltdown! Anything but that! Oh! I'm so tired of this! Turn off this cherry crappy music right now! I've had it up to here with your gay, soy boy, liberal agenda! You listen here, you cum-guzzling poser cuck! You're trying to make me woke and trans! You're trying to make metal political! Well, I won't let you! I ain't! It ain't! We ain't! Shame on you, you monster! You fiend! You weak little snowflake bitch! I'm not being dramatic or emotional! You are! I'm not crying! You are! We're all laughing at you!
I was gonna say worst metal albums. Worst metal albums of 2025. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This is really dramatic. What a little drama queen, am I right? Wow. Okay. No, we don't have to have the music back on. Thank you though. How about a drink? Yeah, let's have a drink. I brought back an almost literal metric fuck ton of tequila from Mexico. To be honest, I'm not really sure how I got it through customs. I'm really not sure, to be honest, but hey, doesn't matter. I'm not fucking complaining. This is the only bottle I haven't opened yet. It's like a pina colada flavored tequila that the missus fell in love with. So let's have a little drink, a little shoddy poo together, you and I, to celebrate this fantastic year of metal. So fantastic, in fact, that it was actually kind of difficult to put together like a proper top 10 worst metal albums list. We only really came up to about like 7 or 8 or so. Honestly, I don't even hate about half the albums included in this video either. Some of them got like 2 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5 scores, like very middle of the road, lukewarm kind of reviews, you know? Like, it was a genuinely really, really, really good year for heavy metal and extreme music. So cheers to a really good 2025 and hopefully an also really good 2026. Salud. That being said, I am going to tear all of these albums a brand new asshole. I almost said asshole's a brand new album. That might have worked in a weird way. I don't fucking know. First up, we have Animetal from Within Destruction, released April 11th via Sumerian Records. I've truthfully never been a huge fan of this band's kind of fusion of like trap, underground hip-hop beats and production, and like electronics and Japanese influences and metalcore and deathcore. So this album by default was never going to resonate with me, but this album specifically, I feel like the way it's been specifically all brought together here, it just makes for such an incredibly obnoxious and cringeworthy display. Like, this is easily their worst album to date, in my opinion. Clean vocals feel kind of half-assed, all of the melodies and hooks and choruses are pretty generic. There's a lot of like noisy patches and synths and like Japanese anime references and samples that just feel really kind of shoehorned in. Moments that are supposed to be moody and angsty and edgy just fall pretty flat on their face, and overall it's just a pretty unappealing listen with very few redeeming qualities. Props to Within Destruction for taking it on the chin, though. Like, it's rare you see a band being willing to hear and handle negative criticism. Like, I have a feeling we won't be getting shit from them. So, props to them. Yeah. But, yeah, not a fan. Next up, we have Unatoned from Machine Head, released April 25th via Nuclear Blast Records and Imperium Recordings. And I don't really feel like I have to explain myself or really elaborate with this one, because this is a pretty universally disliked metal album. Even some of the Machine Head diehard fans kind of had a pretty meh reaction to this when it dropped. We seem to all kind of be in agreement that Rob Flynn is running out of creative juice, and it shows consistently on this album. There are, to be fair, a few decent riffs and grooves on this album. It's not devoid of momentum or energy per se, but it is devoid of anything interesting or original to offer. Everything kind of bleeds together into a big, bland, boring kind of slop of what feels like, honestly, Machine Head's reheated leftovers. Like, there's absolutely nothing on this album that Machine Head have not done better on previous albums. Even some of the, like, rap verses and rap-like flows that you hear on certain songs, even that was done better on previous Machine Head albums. At least with Of Kingdom and Crown, we were able to get some pretty complex and gnarly riffage from Vogue, but now that he's out of the picture, it's all pretty basic, kind of like edgy starter metal riffs. Like the kind of shit you would whip up in a weekend after listening to a Machine Head album for the very first time ever, and not one of the good ones either. It's just not very good, man. I would say the best thing about this album is that it's thankfully extremely forgettable. It doesn't really stick with you the way that something like Catharsis did. Alright, now this is where things start getting juicy and spicy, like a ribeye steak with a rich hot pepper sauce, because next up is Even in Arcadia from Sleep Token, released May 9th via RCA Records. This is an extremely popular album. It is nominated for multiple Grammys. The song Caramel was named the #1 song of the year by the New York Times. And you know what? Good for Sleep Token, honest to God, because warts and all, they are probably one of the more unique and interesting voices in mainstream modern rock and metal right now. But I very simply am not a fan. I tried to be a fan, and in fact, my review of this album was not nearly as negative as I expected it to be. There are aspects of this album that I do appreciate. I think that it's very well produced and put together. I think Vessel vocally, even though he's hamming it up quite a bit, in my opinion, I think he manages some really solid performances, some really strong emotional moments. And I appreciate seeing more vulnerability and honesty in the lyricism as well, with Vessel reflecting on Sleep Token getting bigger and more popular and struggling to kind of handle the pressure and the fame, and like dealing with the anxiety and the stress of being such a big name band and having so little privacy or free time. Like, there are points on this album where it almost feels like Vessel longs for the days of being a much smaller kind of alternative metalcore band. But this doesn't change the fact that the album is ultimately somewhat incohesive. It doesn't change the fact that it's messy and clumsy, especially with how it handles like genre fusions. Like, it goes from like gent-style prog metal with like polyrhythms to like more full-blown kind of keyboard-driven balladry to like bringing in influence from like reggaeton music and black gaze and modern pop and R&B, and none of it is just really all that meshed together well. It's a very poor emulsification of a bunch of ideas that just don't really work that well together to begin with. And you can just kind of tell that Sleep Token is very aware of how popular they are on TikTok and social media, because there are moments specifically on songs like Dangerous and Emergence that feel like they've been manufactured for use in like TikTok edits and thirst traps and shit like that. Even in Arcadia definitely isn't the worst album we're talking about today. It's got just as many bad moments as it does good, but it is maybe one of the more frustrating, I would say, because there are so many moments where like Sleep Token is kind of cooking, but unfortunately they're not quite master chefs just yet, contrary to what I'm sure many people in the comments will try to tell me. Next up, we have Hollywood Mortician from Nathan James, released July 11th via Crowdkill Records. The self-proclaimed pioneer of new metal, God that's stupid, does not impress with his debut full-length album, although not for lack of trying. I mean, he really kind of throws everything at you. You gotta give him credit for that. There's like silly, mumbly, growly vocals and like ugly, annoying barking vocals and a variety of weak, half-assed cleans. Super duper edgy, trying too hard to be tough and provocative and scary lyricism, and also just like full-blown nursery rhyme type ass lyricism at certain points. It's juvenile, it's stupid. A lot of these riffs and beats are very paint by numbers. Sometimes it feels like Nathan James is kind of rushing himself and trying too quickly to get to the point of a song, not really allowing things to really simmer and build flavor. If for whatever reason you wanted to hear like this weird, unappealing mishmash of like Linkin Park, Marilyn Manson, Motionless in White, Static X, Ghost Main, then congratulations, maybe this is for you. But I'll stick to Tala. Like if we're talking new metal, modern day new metal revival resurgence shit, stuff that actually introduces something new to new metal, I'm going Tala, and I'm skipping way past this self-proclaimed pioneer of the genre. Next up, we have Grizzly from Slaughter to Prevail, released July 18th via Sumerian Records. My review of this album received such intense backlash that it spawned not one, but two angry fanboy drinking games. And truth be told, I could easily pull off a third if I really wanted to. And in fact, after today, I might be able to. Now, contrary to what has unfortunately become popular belief, my issue with this album is not that I think Alex Terrible is a Nazi. My issue with this album is that it spends so much time simply trying to prove to us that it's big and tough and strong and brutal, that it literally forgets to do anything else. In the process of obsessing over physical muscle, it forgets creative muscle. Well, mostly. To be entirely fair, the more epic and melodic endeavors of Viking and Rodina are admirable, and honestly, Song 3 featuring Baby Metal, it's kind of a fun little tasty banger. I can't even lie. More so because of Baby Metal than Slaughter to Prevail, but nevertheless. But aside from these few cuts, we're pretty firmly planted in the realms of like wannabe tough guy posturing manosphere metal. I mean, songs like Conflict, Kid of Darkness, Lift That Shit, I'm Dead are filled with corny, edgy, stupid moments. Alex Terrible undeniably has a pretty mean, deep, menacing kind of guttural presence, but his vocals are so over the top and so overdone that it just looks kind of goofy and pretentious. Like, so much so that, honest to God, I think we owe Will Ramos from Lorna Shore an apology. Like, that motherfucker ain't got nothing on Alex Terrible, at least on this album. And honestly, a lot of these like churning, grinding, slamming riffs are just kind of repetitive. They're fine and enjoyable in a vacuum, but in context of the entire album, it just feels very samey and repetitive, and it all kind of bleeds together. If you're coming into this album with the mindset of, whatever man, I just want to lift weights and pound ass, fuck the haters, I want to listen to stuff that's hard, then congratulations, this is for you. But for everybody else, no. No. Next up, we have Extinction Level Event from Dark Angel, released September 5th via Reversed Records. What a colossal failure. What an absolutely massive letdown. Not just one of the worst metal albums of the year, but also the most disappointing. Like, this is Dark Angel's first album in 34 years, and they've spent the last 15 years hyping up this album, talking about making new music, constantly, like, stirring the pot and being like, oh, new album any day now, new album any date now. Like, literally, in the entire time that I've been listening to and paying attention to metal music, I've been hearing about a new Dark Angel album coming out any fucking day now. And now it's finally here, and it's so colossally mediocre and average at best. What happened? I mean, Ron Reinhardt is a mess on vocals. This production is just kind of flat and cheap. And while there are some decent riffs here and there, there's nothing that I feel warrants the insane amount of hype and patience. It falls especially flat in comparison to other older thrash metal bands that also released comeback albums in 2025. Like, Sacrifice managed a really solid album earlier in the year. Coroner as well. Dissonance Theory is not just a great album, it's it is one of the best metal albums of 2025. Like, after 15 years of hyping this up, writing and recording and talking about this album, after 34 years of waiting, this is the best you could whip up? Wow. That's a little pathetic. Not gonna lie to you. Next up, we have the King of Terrors EP from President, released September 26th via King of Terrors and ADA Music. President has been the talk of the town in 2025, emerging out of the blue and rising to fame almost immediately, and securing these massive festival slots and selling out headlining stadium shows despite not having released any fucking music. And all of this has led to allegations of President being an industry plant. I'm not really interested in having that conversation anymore because it doesn't really matter anymore. But I can tell you that even if President isn't a phony band, this EP sure as shit feels phony as fuck. Like, there is nothing that feels genuine or honest about this EP or this band. It really does feel like some record company, some marketing group was looking at the success of a band like Sleep Token and of, like, alternative metalcore in general and going, well, we want a piece of that action, so we're gonna get a band and put them in masks, and we're gonna start making mopey, sappy, alternative pop metalcore now too. It just feels and looks and sounds so disingenuous. The songs are so generic and paint by numbers that, like, if you told me they were written by, like, a computer, I might believe you. Officially speaking, we don't really know who the lead singer of President is, although many people have come to the conclusion that it is one Charlie Simpson, who is himself not a stranger to industry plant bands. More importantly, though, if it is Charlie, Charlie, you sound like fucking shit on this album. I hate the combination of these, like, moaning, whimpering fucking vocals. I hate these very high-pitched kind of nasally squeals. You know, the choruses aren't so bad. They're mostly just generic. Like, it feels like it could have been ripped from, like, the most recent Bring Me the Horizon album. Or, you know, more specifically, a Bring Me the Horizon B-side or demo that never got finished or put to tape. The album is filled with ham-fisted riffs and kind of, like, airy, spritzy electronics and hip-hop beats that are all extremely basic and fall supremely flat. Quite possibly one of the ugliest, most unappealing, most unoriginal, and just phony as fuck things I've heard out of modern rock and metal to date. This is my number one top worst metal album of the year. I genuinely despise this EP, and I cannot understand for a moment why anybody would find anything of value in this. And last but not least, we have Death Above Life from Orbit Culture, released October 3rd via Century Media Records. This band has been frequently billed as one of the best and brightest new bands in modern metal for reasons I've never fully understood, and this album didn't really do anything to change my mind. It just kind of feels like a regurgitation of like the most tried and true and tired elements of more radio-friendly big-name metal bands. Like, I think about like post-Black Album era Metallica a lot on this album, and Trivium, and, you know, even Gojira, especially some of the more recent albums. I'm just not really moved or intrigued by this at all. I don't find it very entertaining or compelling. It's a lot of riffs and melodies that I feel like I've already heard time and time again from all of these bands I mentioned and a few more. This is absolutely what I would describe as background music metal. It does not help either that the mixing and mastering, the overall production here is so bad, so noisy, so loud, so in your face. There is so much compression. It is so overproduced. I mean, in the album's biggest and most bombastic and extreme moments especially, it is irritating and almost unlistenable. I will say that out of all the bands we're talking about in this video today, I think Orbit Culture has the most potential to go on to do a great album. I think they just need to really rethink how they mix and master and produce their music, and I think they just need to get a little kick in the ass, you know? They need to invest in some spicier, more creative songwriting and riffage. And that's it for me, I guess. Yeah, like I said, we don't really have a full-blown top 10 this year because it really was a great year. Even finding, like, this many albums for this list was a bit of a struggle, I'm not gonna lie to you. But hey, we did it! That's what matters, and as per the norm, now it's your turn to tell me what you think the worst metal album of 2025. What do you think of my selection of worst metal albums? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Did I get it somewhere in the middle? I'm not really sure what the rest of 2025 looks like for the Metal Meltdown. I think we might just go on a little bit of a Christmas holiday break for a little bit. Stay tuned for info on our annual Christmas holiday party and live stream, mind you, and maybe some other goodies here and there, because I just like talking to y'all and posting and hanging out with y'all, so yeah, whatever. And yeah. That's all. Join us on Discord, subscribe if you haven't already, other videos here, and as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.